No sign of Lori Daybell and her two children, JJ and Tylee.
JJ and Tylee are still missing. Lori and her new husband, Chad Daybell, are in Hawaii.
It has now been more than a week since former Arizona mom Lori Vallow violated a court order up in Idaho. She failed to show up to prove to authorities her two missing kids are alive. The kids, JJ and Tylee, have been missing since last September.
Hi friends, how are you doing today? Due to some unforeseen circumstances, the video that I wanted to get up on Friday obviously did not take place. Life happens. Here we are. I had previously recorded this timeline on Friday, but since Friday, there's been a treasure trove of information that has come to light. So I'm going to go ahead and include all of that in this timeline as well. Now, today we are going to go over from start to finish 99.9% of everything we know about the Lori Vallow case. Previously, I had done a timeline that was the very bare bones of this case. If you've not watched that, that link will be down in the description box below. In addition to that timeline, I've also done 9 other videos specifically on this case. That number is going to continue to rise because this case is my sole focus. This case has so many different layers and moving parts to it that you just, once you think you've finally understood something else happens and you're like, well, wait, that doesn't fit. How does that work? So to me, this case is like a train wreck. You cannot look away, and every time you look a little closer and dig a little deeper, you find some more bullshit at the bottom of the rubble. So there's a lot going on with this case. This video is likely going to be extremely long. From here going forward, this will probably be one of the last timelines of this magnitude that I put together. Not because I don't want to give a comprehensive understanding of the case, but because as time is continuing to move forward and more details are coming out, it's going to get very hard to put it all into one spot. What's likely going to happen in the future is we're going to discuss specific events surrounding the case. We're going to discuss maybe, a month in its entirety, but to be able to sit down and do something like what we're about to go through now is going to just become more difficult, and it's going to require a lot more time out of everybody when we can focus on using this as our building block and then elaborating through videos in the future. Now, as news comes out about this case, I will do my best to get it to you as soon as possible in as much detail as possible. I am a stickler about documents and making sure that information is verified. I do not necessarily subscribe to every news article that I see because there's lots of craziness being said. Now, mind you, some of it might actually in fact be true, but at this time, the only thing I like to bring to you guys is anything that has been confirmed. If you're new here and new to me following this case, you will need to know that the two people that I have a ton of trust in and really value the information that they bring to the public are Justin Lum from FOX10. His Twitter, all of his information is linked down below. He has been on this case since mid-December, and he has not let up. He is in it to win it with this case, and I appreciate every little thing he does because when nobody was talking about this case, he was. The next one is Nate Eaton from East Idaho News. He also has been posting and following this case since mid-December before it really kind of broke open to all the craziness coming out. There are other outlets out there that have posted different pieces of information, but unfortunately, in my opinion, those can't be verified. When there's only one outlet reporting something, I'm not interested in tabloid type outlets, to just be very frank. These two gentlemen definitely have their head in the right spot, and they're really trying to get to the bottom of this story, and I am right there with them. Now, as far as documents and different things that I've collected over the course of the last 2 months, as soon as I see them, I save them right away because certain things that pop up, they disappear just as quick as they pop up. I've had a few requests via email and in the comment section down below for people in general that just want those documents. By all means, just send me an email at drainey326@gmail.com. I want every creator, every person who wants information about this case to have it because this case has flown under the radar for way too long. We need to get information out there. One, to put pressure on law enforcement, the FBI, all the authorities now involved in this case, put pressure on them to actually show us some sort of result, explain to us what the steps might be going forward. But we also need to put pressure on Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell to be able to let us know where exactly JJ and Tylee are. Before we get started, I just want to say I really appreciate you guys being here. You guys taking time out of your day, spend with me to learn about this case means more than you guys could ever know. I value each and every one of you, and I recognize that your time is valuable, and the fact that you're choosing to spend your time here is just awesome. So thank you guys all so very much for being here. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, for some of you, some of this information is going to be repetitive, and for that I do apologize. But please understand, every day there are more and more people getting interested and involved in this case. I find it necessary to paint a comprehensive picture of what has happened and what we've learned over the course of the last 10 weeks, so that moving forward, everybody's kind of on the same page. Before we meet all of the players in this Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell saga, we need to keep in mind that JJ and Tylee are the most important part of this entire case. Here's their NCMEC poster. Please, if you have any information, please call 911. You may also call 1-800-THE-LOST, and they will get you to the correct authorities to share your information. In addition to sharing that NCMEC flyer on every single platform you possibly can, also keep in mind that Larry and Kay Woodcock are offering $20,000 reward for information leading to the location of JJ and Tylee. This reward has been in place for well over a month now, and they are not backing down. Take a minute and share those on every social media platform you can. Okay, before we get started, here's a quick overview. Larry and Kay Woodcock were unable to get hold of Lori and the kids. So finally, they went ahead and requested a welfare check on Tylee and JJ. On November 26th of 2019, Idaho authorities went to Lori's townhome and was like, hey, knock knock, where's your kids? She's like, oh, they're visiting family down in Arizona. They're fine. Here's the number. Give them a call. Authorities were like, sweet, cool. Go back, make some phone calls, find out that that was a big fat lie. So they go back to the townhome the following day, only to find that Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell, and Alex Cox had all fled. Then determined, not long after that the last time that JJ was seen was September 23rd, 2019. Unfortunately, we do not have a firm date for the last time that Tylee was seen. Lori Vallow's been married now 5 times. Her third and fourth husbands both died within the last 2 years. Her third husband, somewhat under mysterious circumstances. Her fourth husband, Charles Vallow, was shot and killed by her brother, Alex Cox, in July of 2019. We fast forward to October. Now, Chad Daybell, who had been married for 29 years, his wife suddenly passes away in October of 2019. She is buried on October 22nd, and then Chad and Lori have this magical beach honeymoon in Hawaii on November 5th, 2019. Seems legit, right? Once authorities started figuring out, okay, there's a lot of strange stuff going on here, like what's the deal? They went ahead and exhumed Chad's wife's body on December 11th of 2019. The very next day, on December 12th, Alex Cox, Lori's brother, dies suddenly. Cause of death still unknown. I believe in coincidences to a certain extent, but this is just a little much, Nobody knows where Chad and Lori are. Everybody's just kind of MIA. Still nobody knows where the children are. And then surprisingly, on January 25th of 2020, authorities announced that they did find Chad and Lori in Hawaii, but there's no sign of the children. That's just a very, very, very bare bones of this case. Let's go ahead and get into some details because there's a lot to go over. These are the major people tied to this case. Now, as the story evolves, we are going to be introduced to more people, but right now we're going to start with these guys. Miss Lori Vallow, isn't she just precious? And then we have Mr. Chad Daybell. He is quickly becoming just as suspicious, if not more suspicious than she is. Then we have Lori's 3 children, Tylee, Colby, and JJ. I want to make it clear that Colby is accounted for. He is safe and sound. He has actually been speaking out on his YouTube channel, and his channel is going to be linked down below. I definitely encourage you to go listen to those videos, but we're going to talk about those here in a little bit. Now in the bottom row, we have Lori's 3rd husband, Joseph Ryan. Next to him, we have her 4th husband, Charles Vallow. Then we have Tammy Daybell, which is Chad Daybell's wife of 29 years. And then we have Lori's brother, Alex Cox. Everybody on that bottom row is deceased. Charles, Tammy, and Alex have all died within the last 7 months. Unexpected and untimely deaths have occurred surrounding both Lori and now Chad. Now in the 90s, Chad and Lori were both in their 20s, just kind of getting life going. In 1990, Chad Daybell married his wife, Tammy. Now, Lori had 2 short marriages, and then her son, Colby, was born into her second marriage. You know, she was in her early 20s, quick marriages. It's not that uncommon. So at this point in life, nothing looks too, out of the ordinary. Now, by the time we get into the next decade, Chad and Tammy have been happily married all this time. They're, just living life and making babies. They had 5 children. And in 2004, they decided to go ahead and open up their own publishing company. It was called Spring Creek Book Company. And then sometime in 2007, Chad Daybell went ahead and published his very first book. Now, Lori, she had a busy decade here. In 2001, she married Joseph Ryan, which was her third husband. On September 24th of 2002, Tylee Ryan was born. Now, in that time, Joseph legally adopted Colby, making Colby become known as Colby Ryan. They divorced in 2004. In 2006, Lori marries her 4th husband, Charles Vallow. Now, in August of 2007, we hear our first story about Alex Cox. Now, keep in mind, this guy has a shady background from many angles, but I'm just going to focus today in the timeline on things that we know are confirmed directly related to this case. In August of 2007, Alex Cox was ordered to serve 90 days in jail for an assault on Joseph Ryan during a custody visit. What the police report says, Joseph Ryan says he was going to his car and Alex Cox basically just appeared and was like, "Hey dude, do you remember me?" And Joe's like, "Yeah, you're my ex-brother-in-law." And Joe said at that time he saw Alex begin to reach into his pocket and he didn't know what he was going to do. So Joe started to take off running, and it turns out that Alex shot him with a taser. So between 2010 and 2015, everybody kind of seems to just be chilling with their family, living their life. In 2015, the Daybells moved to Idaho after Chad says that he heard a voice telling him that that's where he needed to relocate his family to. He heard this message being spoken to him at least twice. In early 2013, Charles and Lori adopted JJ. Now, biologically, Charles is JJ's great uncle. There was some family stuff that went on. People needed help. Charles and Lori stepped up to the plate and said, by all means, we'll take him in. In 2014, the Vallow family moved to Kauai, Hawaii. And they were there for a few years. They came back early 2017. But while they were in Hawaii, Lori Vallow was first introduced to Chad Daybell's books, and she became pretty interested in them. That was her first introduction to Chad from everything that we know at this point. By the time we get into 2018, things are really starting to become apparent to everybody in the family that there's some strange things going on with Lori Vallow. Now, there are extended family members coming forward now and being like, oh no, this started way beforehand. On April 3rd of 2018, her third husband, Tylee and Colby's dad, passes away suddenly from a heart attack. Now, despite their divorce back in 2004, Lori Vallow receives a $75,000 payout from an insurance company after his death. The consensus is that money would have been for Colby and Tylee. Where that money went to, nobody really knows. Or once they got back to the mainland from Hawaii, her thinking is just kind of all over the map. She's not really concerned with the kids anymore. It's almost like she has better things to do. And that's based around some of her more extremist religious beliefs, and then especially her fascination with near-death experiences. Lori Vallow began to appear on a podcast called Time to Warrior Up. She did appear on this podcast many times, but the first time that she was able to appear with Chad Daybell was December 5th of 2018. Now, had they met previously to that, nobody's really sure, but that's the first day people can confirm that they were in fact together. As we go through January to about September of 2019, Chad Daybell's name is not going to be mentioned very much. And that's not because he doesn't have an important part to play in how the story evolves. It's just that at this time, we do not have any firm evidence that puts him and Lori together at any given time. Based on what we're going to learn in a little bit, absolutely they did have to have some sort of communication going on, and they likely did spend time together. It's just not been confirmed as of yet. So he's going to go away for a few minutes, and not because I'm forgetting about him, because trust me, he plays a very large part in this story. It's just because his name right now is not important to the timeline of events that are going to take place over the next few months. Early January, all of a sudden, poof, Lori disappears. She's gone. Nobody knows where she's at. Charles quickly figures out that before she took off, she helped herself to $35,000 out of the business fund. Now, her whereabouts for the time she was gone, which was just over a month, were kind of unknown. Some rumor that she was stalking Chad in Idaho, while others say that she was in Hawaii. And Justin Lum did confirm recently that she was in Hawaii, and we're going to look at that tweet here in a few minutes. Regardless of her location at the time, or regardless of her reasoning for just up and leaving her family, this woman had $110,000. She received a check for $75,000 after the death of Joe, and then helped herself to $35,000 out of the business accounts, which in turn caused a ton of problems for Charles. Now, while she was gone, she made very limited contact. She didn't inquire about JJ. She was just kind of off doing whatever the hell she was doing. Charles talks about a conversation that took place on or around January 29th of 2019, where she was making some very unhinged statements, just kind of they're straight out of left field. A phone call that took place on that day and the day following did prompt Charles to go ahead to file for divorce and file for and receive an order of protection. In that divorce filing, Charles does list out a lot of crazy shit that she did. Charles alleges numerous heinous acts, specifically pointing out all different times when she was just making irrational decisions and just saying very off-the-wall things. If you've not read yet Charles's divorce filing, it is down below, and it will really give you some insight into her state of mind just over a year ago. Let me give you a little backstory of while Charles was in Houston. He comes to fly home one day only to find his flight has been canceled and that Lori did that for him. So then he finally waits around, gets on a plane, finally gets to Arizona, and then discovers that his truck that he left in airport parking is no longer there. Lori helped herself to that too. And finally gets to the house to figure out that Lori had been to the house. She took all sorts of different things, including electronics that Charles used for work. She went so far as to take Charles's clothes and his underwear. Okay? If you're pissed off at your husband, you do some stupid shit just to be spiteful and mean. But she takes it a step further. She took JJ's iPad. She took accessories for JJ's support dog. And she even took JJ's medication. Not only is she being a complete asshole to her husband, now she's taking her wackadoo behavior out on her son, which makes absolutely no sense. So let's see what old crazy had to say. Now, in this document, Lori is mother, father is Charles. I'll just call them Lori and Charles because it gets pretty confusing to try to say mother and father and keep the story straight. Lori has recently become infatuated and at times obsessive about near-death experiences and spiritual visions. Lori has told Charles that she is sealed, meaning eternally married, to the ancient Book of Mormon prophet Moroni, and that she has lived numerous lives on numerous planets prior to this current life. Lori also believes she was married to James the Just in a past life, and also lived as Mary French in the 1800s, who was Joseph Smith Jr.'s natural grandmother. Lori also informed Charles that she is a translated being who cannot taste death. She's sent by God to lead 144,000 into the new millennium. Lori believes she is receiving spiritual revelations and visions to help her gather and prepare those chosen to live in the New Jerusalem after the Great War as prophesied in the Book of Revelations. Sounds legit, lady. On January 29, 2019, during a phone conversation between the parties and after their physical separation, Lori informed Charles that she was a God assigned to carry out the work of the 144,000 at Christ's second coming in July of 2020, and that if Charles got in her way of her mission, she would murder him. The next day, Charles was on a business trip in Houston, and during another phone conversation, she kept referring to Charles as Nick Schneider instead of Charles's name. Charles asked who Nick was, and Lori told him that Nick was father's real name because Nick had killed Charles and taken his identity. Lori proceeded to warn Charles that she would kill him upon his return home and had an angel there to help her dispose of the body. Lori also mentioned that she could not trust Charles and that she would not only kill him but destroy him financially. Since that conversation, Lori's communications with Charles have been rare and intermittent. Upon his return home, Charles petitioned for and did receive an order of protection, which we'll look at here in a second. Just over a year ago, she's making some pretty strange statements. Suddenly she has all of these beliefs that she really thinks she's connected spiritually to everybody that's a big name in the LDS community. She made some statements, and thank God for Charles for documenting them, and I definitely feel for Charles because I wouldn't even know how to respond to any conversation like this. I don't know. I feel for Charles in so many ways. Let's look at what he petitioned for when he received his order of protection for himself and for JJ. This was filed for on February 4th of 2019. I'm going to read the two things listed at the bottom of page 1 here because these are the things that he documented were the reasons for the need of this order of protection. It says, tell the judge what happened and why you need this order. A copy of this petition is provided to the defendant when the order is served. On January 29th, she told me she was a god and was assigned to carry out the work of 144,000 at Christ's second coming in July of 2020. She said I was in the way and would have to murder me if I tried to stop her. On January 30th, the next day on a business trip to Houston, she called and told me she didn't trust me and would have to kill me when I got home. She would have an angel there to help me dispose of my body. She also said she knew my real name was Nick and said I would have to go, and painfully. So I'll leave this one up for a few seconds as well as page 2. Again, this will be linked down below, but I'll leave it up if you guys want to pause it and read everything. Late on February 5th of 2020, Justin Lum made this tweet. Per school officials at JJ School in Arizona, staff did make a report to CPS regarding JJ around February 21st of 2019 because Lori Vallow had still not been located. Now we can confirm she was in Kauai with her daughter Tylee for about a month. Nothing about what prompted this call to CPS or any of that other than the fact she was missing has come to light, but I did find it important to go ahead and insert here that a call was made and that there was documentation around a year ago that said she's doing some wackadoo shit. So after about a month, Lori just walks back in the door of Tylee and just pretends like everything's cool, everything's just going to be fine. Well, Charles, because he loves the woman and that's his wife, and he had previously been trying to do things to get her some help and try to understand what's going on with her. You know, he decides, you know what, I'm going to drop the divorce proceedings. We're going to see what we can do. You know, he really wanted to make his marriage work. He wanted to have his family together as a whole. He dropped those divorce proceedings and they proceeded on with life. Now, what went on behind closed doors during that time, there's not a lot of firm information right now. There are a lot of stories being circulated, but until, like I said, we can get confirmation of those things, you will not hear them come out of my mouth. Let's move forward to June of that year and see what else starts to take place. So not only is Lori Vallow going down this road of very suspicious beliefs and activity, but now she's picked up her niece and is dragging her along with her. Here you can see Brandon and Melanie. They had been married for 11 years, they had 4 children, and everything was just going really great for them, at least according to Brandon. And then one day, Melanie comes home and decides she needs a divorce right then and there. She's over it. She just wants out of the marriage as soon as possible. And Brandon was like, totally blindsided, but he was like, okay, whatever, you know, just make it go smooth. Now they'll come back to play here in a little bit, especially Melanie. So at this point, we're right in the middle of 2019, and from here, present day, which is February 2020, there are things happening pretty much on a regular basis. The next thing on this timeline is the day that Charles Vallow passed away. Now, just last week, I uploaded a video specifically about July 11th of 2019. There's a lot of information that's come out about that day. There's Alex Cox's 911 phone call. There's the body cam footage of Alex Cox at the property. There's also body cam footage that's been released showing Lori and Tylee after they returned home. And that's really interesting is Tylee's complete witness statement and Lori Vallow's complete witness statement. And you will notice how all three of their stories do not match at all, not even close. For the purpose of this timeline, I'm going to give some very basic information and point out some things, and we will listen to a little of the audio and see a little video. But if you want to see exactly everything that we know to date that went on that day, that video is linked down below.
The emergency.
I shot my brother-in-law.
Okay, what part of his body is injured?
In the chest.
I'm sorry, where?
In the chest.
Okay, is he awake and responsive or unconscious?
Unconscious.
Okay, is he breathing?
I can't tell.
Okay, are you willing to go over to him and check?
Sure.
Okay, do you just let me know if you see his chest going up and down? How old is he?
It's not moving. He's 60.
Okay, and are you wanting to start CPR?
No, I don't know how to do that.
I can walk you through it.
Okay.
PD, did you have any other questions?
Yes. What's your name, sir?
My name is Alex. Last name is Cox, C-O-X.
What's his name, your brother-in-law?
Charles Vallow.
So by July 11th of 2019, Charles has rented a home for Lori and the kids. They had only lived there for around 3 weeks. Now, Charles is working in Houston, but he's looking to move back to Arizona to be with his family and try to, get his marriage back on track and get life back to, as normal as possible. Now, he plans to pick up JJ that Thursday morning and take him to school, which he does. He makes those plans with Lori. Mysteriously, Alex Cox, who only lives, a short distance away, decides he's going to spend the night that night. He doesn't live there. He's just having a sleepover. So a firm timeline of really what went down, in that short amount of time in the morning is not available because of all the conflicting statements. So let's take a look at a little bit of that.
Let's get to this.
I don't know, he was enraged.
What's going on? What happened?
Oh, he was talking with my sister earlier.
No, what happened today, though? Like, just in the last 20 minutes.
He came at me with a bat.
Okay. Was he living here or
No.
visiting?
He came to pick up his son.
Okay, is the son inside?
No. My sister took him to school.
Okay, so it was just you at the house?
Yes.
And then he came, what time did he come to pick up the son?
I don't know, 20 minutes ago maybe.
Okay, so you know who he is, let him in?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think they were talking earlier, then she left, and then he got into it with me.
Like what? What do you mean?
I don't know, he was accusing me of...
Come on over here. That truck's going to be really loud. What was he accusing you of?
He was just yelling at me.
Okay, what was he yelling at you about?
About my sister because I'd broken up a tussle with them earlier. And he told me not to interfere anymore with them or I'd pay. And he came at me with a bat.
Okay, so he showed up in the house with a bat in his hand?
No.
Okay, so...
There was a scuffle earlier with my sister and my niece. My niece got involved.
About earlier meaning earlier this week, earlier
No,
this morning?
just this morning, before they left.
Before your wife left?
My sister.
Before your sister left?
Yeah.
Okay, who lives here with you?
Nobody. I don't live here. My sister lives here and my niece lives here.
And you're just visiting?
I was visiting for the night.
Okay, so you're over here visiting your sister and your niece.
Yes.
Okay, and there was a tussle between your sister and her husband.
Yes.
And does the husband live here or no?
No. He
Okay.
lives in Houston.
Okay, is he an ex-husband or just current husband?
They're working on that.
Gotcha. So at some point earlier today, they get into some type of domestic?
Yeah, just this morning, then they left, and then he came at me.
They left meaning who? Both of parties?
Yeah, my sister took my niece and my nephew.
Okay, so they left.
To create some space for him, and then he came at me.
Okay, but did he leave also?
No.
He stayed here?
He stayed.
So you guys are kind of talking in between or what? So it's just you and your brother-in-law?
Yes.
Okay. And kind of go through it.
So,
say something like, hey, don't touch my sister, or...
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And then he picked up the bat.
Where was the bat at?
In the living room. Yeah.
Is this vehicle here? How did he get here?
Is it here from Texas? No, that's my sister's car. I think he came in a rental car. I think my sister's in it.
You think your sister's in the rental car? So you both, so you get in an argument? What is it over?
Well, it was over my sister. He was getting physical with her, and so my niece came out with her bat, and then he took the bat away from her.
Wait a minute, I thought you said your niece left.
She did, but this is before.
So before your sister and your niece left,
Yeah.
at some point your sister and her husband are arguing,
Yes.
verbal argument, and then your niece pulls out a bat.
Well, it wasn't verbal. He was getting close, and she came out to defend my sister with her bat.
Your niece.
Yes.
Okay.
And then she poked at him, and then he took it away.
Okay.
And then I stepped in and told them they needed to separate.
Right.
So then my sister leaves with my niece.
And how long ago did they leave? It's been like an hour, 10 minutes?
20 minutes maybe, I don't know.
Okay. So not terribly long.
No.
Oh, okay.
And then he's coming back at me, and he's still got the bat in his hand. Like, what are you doing?
And where are you at it? Where are you both
in the
at?
living room.
Okay.
And then I turned around, and he hit me in the back of the head with the bat. So I went to my room and got my gun. I always carry it.
You went to your room, meaning the room you're staying in?
Yeah.
Okay, and you brought a gun with you?
Yes.
Do you always bring a gun?
I have a concealed carry always.
Okay.
Just to be safe. I told him to put the bat down, and he wouldn't, and he came at me again.
The wife just showed up as well. So you told him to put the...
Yes.
So where are you at?
Back
Where are you at now? Or did you stay in your bedroom?
No.
Okay, why didn't you stay just in your bedroom, close the door? Is that something you didn't think about? Or
Didn't even occur to me.
okay, so walk me through it. So you go back into your room
So I just went back to the living room, like, what is your problem?
with the gun in your hand.
Yes. And I said, I want you to put that bat down, and he wouldn't do it. And he's like, and he came at me with the bat again after he'd already hit me in the head. So I shot him to stop him.
Okay, then what happened? Are you working now?
I'm on vacation this week.
Well, what do you do for a living?
Oh, I drive a truck.
Second, where's the weapon at now?
It's in the bedroom.
So after you shot him, you put it back in the room, or?
Yeah, I went back to the bedroom to get my phone.
Okay. And what'd you do with your phone?
It's right here.
Okay. And then what'd you do once you put your gun back? Grabbed your phone.
I cleaned my head up.
After was he laying there in the living room?
Yeah, he was laying there still, and it just took me a minute to compose myself. I mean, I was just shaking, and then I called.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you normally have a good relationship with the guy?
Yeah, I did.
So do you? So you only live in Santan Valley, so why is it just easier to just hang out here?
I was just here late last night, sleep the night.
Gotcha. Okay. Are you and your sister pretty close?
Yeah, we're planning to go do something today.
Alex is painting the story like Charles willingly stayed behind and let Lori take off in his rental car, not her own car, but in his car, to take Jada to school and then come on back. Now, according to Alex, here's what his statement basically says. Charles and Lori had a verbal argument, and he inserted himself to kind of de-escalate the situation. You know, he was trying to be like the peacemaker here, supposedly. So he says Lori left at some point with the children. Then randomly Charles swung a bat at him. Alex said he went to his room, got his gun, shot Charles a couple times, went back to his room, put his gun away, gained his composure, and then he called 911. According to Tylee, in her statement, she said that she overheard the fight and that she woke up to find everybody in the hallway arguing. Lori says that she called Alex to spend the night because she was so afraid of Charles. Lori said the argument ensued because she wouldn't give Charles back his phone. So she instigating some shit, sounds like it if that part of the story is true. Lori states that Alex and Charles were wrestling on the ground at some point, and then she fled the house, and as she left, she heard the gunshots. So she took the kids and just took off to take JJ to school. Now, when she returned home, which we're going to see here in a few minutes, she is just all smiles, her hair's done. Nobody looks like they've been in a fight. Alex doesn't look like he's been in a tussle of any sort. I mean, Alex's clothes aren't all jacked up. Lori's hair's done perfectly, so she wasn't wrestling with nobody. And, you know, so there's clearly some shadiness that surrounded this whole day. There's a video devoted to that entire day. It is linked down below, and I will also pop it right up here somewhere. So if you want to pause now, watch that, and come on back, you're welcome to do that as well.
Does your husband live here or no?
No, he lives in Houston.
Gotcha. Okay, you guys got it.
Separated.
Gotcha. Okay. Let me just get do you have a driver's license with you I can just grab? Thank you. How long have you guys lived here?
I'm sorry?
How long have you lived here?
Like 3 weeks.
Oh, geez. Yeah, okay.
That's why the neighbors don't know us.
Gotcha.
Like, hi neighbor, sorry.
Are you working at all?
No.
Okay. And you're still about 5'6", 120?
The events that took place on July 11th are absolutely horrifying, and they should have never taken place. Tylee specifically should have never been part of any of that, and even know that JJ was in the vicinity at the time in which his father was killed is just disgusting. But if you thought that Lori's behavior couldn't get any worse, this bitch really takes it up a notch. She doesn't notify anybody of Charles' passing that day. Now, mind you, Charles has 2 older sons from a previous marriage who live in Texas. She doesn't notify them. She doesn't notify anyone. And when she does, she's kind enough to send them a text. When I posted that video about the day that Charles passed away, at that time, these text messages were alleged. They've been confirmed by Charles' ex-wife. So let's go ahead and take a look at those and try to pick them apart and understand how big of a lying ass crazy person this woman is. Not the night of July 11th, not even the next morning. This is, you could see the timestamp on the one on the left says 4:36 p.m. So that afternoon, like it just dawned on her, oh, I should probably let somebody know. So this is what she sends to Charles's older sons. Hi boys, I have very sad news. Your dad passed away yesterday. I'm working on making arrangements and I'll keep you informed with what's going on. I'm still not sure how to handle things. Just want you to know that I love you and so did your dad. And then right away the boys are like, Lori, what happened? This is what she writes back. And this one makes me want to just fly to Hawaii myself and punch her in the face. We are still waiting for the medical examiner report. I'll let you know more when I can. Are you fucking serious, lady? The medical examiner report? I'm pretty sure it's going to say that your husband was shot and killed by your brother. Why don't you just tell him that? The boys write back, where is he and what happened? I'll call you when I can, bub. He is here in Arizona. Where in Arizona? When did all this happen? How's JJ doing? What funeral home is he at? Lori, what the fuck happened? You can't just tell us our dad died and disappear. You're not too busy to just let us know he died and disappear. Lori, it's been 3 hours. You're not that busy. I don't care what you're doing. She finally responds, I'm sorry you are so upset. I'm so upset too. I'm trying to get JJ ready for bed. I'm waiting to hear back from the medical examiner to make sense of all this myself. Please be patient with me. It's a crushing situation all the way around. I'm still trying to process it too and what it means for JJ. She's just disgusting. But it goes on. Now, mind you, that was on Friday the 12th. On Saturday, they're texting her. When and where is the funeral? How did all this happen? I want an explanation. I'm still working on arrangements and sorting things out the best I can. I'll let you know when I know. Why aren't you telling me what happened? I've asked numerous times. Just tell me. This one dated over here is Tuesday the 16th. So this is 5 days later. She responds something to the effect, talking about business and contacting people, and it's all so difficult. Today I'm trying to put up a memorial page on the funeral home website. I'll send you the link. I'll send the link to you when I have it. I love you and so does your dad. They write back, I appreciate this information, but I will ask this question again because I still haven't been given an answer. What happened? When did it happen? How did it happen? Where is he now? Is there a funeral? When is it? Who have you told about his death? Give me all the information you have, please. My brother and I deserve to know. I mean, she's just a heartless bitch. She tells the boys via text message that their father has passed away. She continues on with his story about waiting to hear from the medical examiner, which she knows damn full and well she doesn't need to hear anything from them. She's telling them, I'm working on a memorial page. The memorial page that she was working so hard on is just his picture and the date of his birth and the date of his death. She is just stringing these children along. But what she didn't realize at the time, Larry Woodcock had Googled Charles' name and figured out that there was a shooting in Arizona and that it took place at the hands of Alex Cox. So they knew right away that something wasn't right. And then as she's continuing on with this story, they're just busting her for being batshit crazy.
When did you realize something was wrong?
When Charles, the day after, or a couple days after
when we
Charles
found out
was
he
killed.
was murdered the next day.
Yeah.
We didn't know till the next day, the afternoon, when Lori texted Charles's two eldest sons in Texas and told them that their dad died and she was making the funeral arrangements.
The way it was presented to the family is not normal in any way or circumstance. That was not normal. Your husband of 12, 13 years is shot to death, and you say, oh, he had a heart attack.
No, she didn't even tell us that. She didn't. All we knew is that he was dead, and Larry had he Googled Charles's name, and that's when we found out that he had been killed, because Larry called me as soon as he Googled it and said they killed him, and I knew exactly. He said Alex killed him, and so Charles was wary of Alex for a long time. Alex has a reputation of just no conscience, he would do things for Lori that were just, I'm one of 6 children, and I have, none of my brothers are going to go hurt somebody for me. Well, I mean, not within reason. And so this is just the strangest relationship.
Well, as it turns out, she went ahead, didn't plan any arrangements, had him cremated, and sent to family members. And then when they planned their own memorial, Lori did not allow JJ to attend, so that young boy was not allowed to mourn the death of his father with the rest of his family. She did not care that these 2 young men's father had been killed. She did not care that JJ's father had been killed, and that the father figure for her 2 other children had just passed away. She has zero regard for that, zero regard for his life, and I think it's absolutely disgusting. And I hope that as these investigations are being reopened, that this is one that really comes back and bites her in the ass. Now, like I said, Charles was renting her this home, and as we saw in the body cam footage, she said they had only been there for 3 weeks. Well, after all this went down, the landlord went to her and was like, you know what, I can't have this in my neighborhood. Whatever you guys got going on, this just can't happen. It just can't. So he basically tells her, you gotta go. Plus, who the hell's going to pay the rent? Charles is gone. So that brings us into August of 2019. Now, Larry and Kay Woodcock, who are JJ's biological grandparents, communicated with him very often through FaceTime. He would use his iPad and he would talk to them, call them, numerous times a day. At any given time, he would just, pick up his iPad and hit the button. Now, the last time that they had any FaceTime communication with him was on August 10th of 2019. That was the last one they had. Now, on August 31st, Lori, Melanie, Tylee, and JJ pack up and move to Rexburg, Idaho. Now, why August 31st? Here's what I think. I think because the landlord was like, bye, bitch, you gotta bounce, can't have that down here. I can't have that in my neighborhood. I think that was her. I think that she probably already had plans to go, but that put a date on it. That's just my opinion. Alex Cox also moved to Rexburg, Idaho. What we don't have on that is a firm date, but we do know that at the end of August, that Lori, her niece, and the 2 children did go to Idaho. So remember back in Charles's divorce papers that were filed in February 2019, where he had talked a little bit about the things that Lori took from the home that were there to support JJ, including his iPad, accessories for his service dog, and his medication. Now, before they took off to Idaho, she went ahead and placed in an ad online trying to sell his service dog.
We're learning more developments in the case of the 2 missing children from Rexburg, Idaho.
Tonight in a Fox 13 exclusive, an Arizona dog trainer says the children's mom gave up her son's service dog just before the children disappeared. Fox 13's Sydney Glenn joining us now in studio with the latest. Sydney.
7-year-old JJ Vallow and 17-year-old Tylee Ryan have been missing since September. In August, a Phoenix-based dog trainer says their mother, Lori Vallow Daybell, called him saying he needed to come get JJ's service dog immediately because they were moving to Idaho.
Dash, place. Good. All right.
Neil Mestis has been training dogs for more than 20 years.
For a lot of people, this gives them freedom. It gives them hope.
He's helped a lot of people, including JJ Vallow. Mestis says about a year and a half ago, Charles Vallow called him up, wanting to get a service dog for his son JJ, who is autistic. They decided on a golden doodle named Bailey.
It was a lot of fun working with both of them, but they were a team, you know.
Bailey quickly got to work and started helping JJ.
Something that JJ really struggled with was sleeping through the night, staying in bed, and Bailey would be there in his bed, and JJ would stay there.
Everything seemed good until Mestis got a call from Lori Vallow Daybell.
I was definitely surprised and shocked when I got the call from Lori that they needed, you know, she needed me to rehome the dog. And I said, why? And she said, well, Charles has passed away.
Later, he learned Charles Vallow was shot and killed by Lori's brother, Alex Cox, a month prior. When Mestis went to go get the dog, he says he saw that Lori was packing everything up to move to Idaho.
I asked, you know, is everything okay? And she just said, it's too hard to talk about.
He never got the chance to talk with JJ or Tylee, but did see JJ playing in the backseat of the car that day.
She didn't want me to really engage with him or her daughter.
Lori handed over Bailey and some of the dog's things and asked if Mestis had found a new home for Bailey. That's when he told her no. Bailey was just coming home with him.
She said, well, if my daughter asked, tell her you've already found him a home because she's really, you know, upset. And I said, okay.
Now, Mestis says he's talked with police about this whole ordeal and just hopes JJ and Tylee are okay.
Mestis says Bailey has been placed with a new family. Lori and her new husband, Chad Daybell, were supposed to show JJ and Tylee to authorities in Idaho late last week, but that never happened. So far, no arrests have been made in this case. Live in studio, Sydney Glenn, Fox 13 News, Utah.
So not only is Lori being totally inconsiderate with JJ's service dog, when full well she could have taken that dog with them, in my opinion, and now he's also having to change school. As a child who really thrives on structure and routine, uprooting him from his entire life and taking him, he's going to have to go to a new school. Lori does not give the school any heads up before they take off. As opposed to handling the transition for JJ in a smooth manner, let's see how she handled it. No heads up, no phone call, no let's transfer any of his information. She sends an email to JJ's school in Arizona on September 5th of 2019. And this is what the email says. Since the circumstances in our lives have changed drastically since my husband passed away last month, I have been offered a job out of state and have had to accept it. We have had to move quickly since the job started as soon as possible, so I'm sad to inform you that Joshua won't be returning this year. You have been so great to get him in this year, and his DDD funding and scholarship have all finally been settled. I really appreciate all you have done for JJ. I will continue to recommend your school to all of our friends like I did with, there's a name redacted. We are doing our best to adjust to our new life. Please let me know what you need me to do to withdraw him. You can email me a withdrawal form or whatever needs to happen. Thank you again, Life Academy. We really loved our time with you, Lori Vallow. She sent this email 2 days after JJ was enrolled in school in Rexburg, Idaho. This is what we know that went down in September at this point. JJ was enrolled in school on September 3rd, 2019, and he was withdrawn from that school on September 23rd. Now, Lori told school officials that she was going to homeschool JJ. Both Tylee and Colby were homeschooled, and I'm assuming she pulled some shit out of her ass about her experience with that and that everything was going to be fine. School officials did confirm this was the last day that they did see JJ, and there's no one else that's come forward that says they've seen him since. Now, Tylee's 17th birthday is September 24th of 2019, just a day after JJ was last seen. There's been nobody come forward as of yet to say they spoke with Tylee on her birthday, none of her friends, no extended family. Now, whether or not that took place, I'm not really sure, but there's some things that lead me to believe it probably didn't that just came out over this weekend that we're going to talk about in a little bit. September 23rd is the last confirmed sighting of JJ, and Tylee's last day of being seen is unknown. There are neighbors to their town home that said they only saw Tylee a handful of times anyway, So for them not to see her for days at a time didn't really seem that out of the norm. However, they did say that their children did play with JJ, and then one day he was just gone. And Lori gave them the same story as she gave authorities when she said, oh, they're visiting friends and family in Arizona. So unfortunately at the time, nobody realized that this was going to be the last time that JJ would have been seen. Nobody realized not seeing Tylee on a regular basis would have such an impact on the case as it does today. Now recently it's also come to light that right after the children were confirmed to have last been seen, Lori rented a storage unit in Rexburg, Idaho. It seemed like a waste of money to get this until we kind of figure out what was in there. So let's take a look.
Lori Vallow Daybell first came here to Self Storage Plus in Rexburg to rent a storage unit. This is the unit that she put her items in. It's a 10 by 10, and over the next few weeks after October 1st, she came here a few different times. Surveillance footage from the company shows Lori or a man associated with her visited her unit 9 times in October and 1 time in November. She came alone once on October 1st, the day she signed the contract and agreed to pay $53 a month. She was driving a blue Nissan Rogue. Lori returned October 2nd and 3rd with a man who appears to be her brother, Alex Cox. His truck is spotted on camera several times during the month. During one visit, the two of them enter the building. The man looks back and forth as Lori opens the unit door. He then removes a heavy tote with something hanging over the end. It's placed in the car. They go back inside the building and he carries out a tire while she closes the door. Between October 6th and 26th, a man, presumably Cox, visits the storage unit alone 5 times. Cameras show him dropping off a variety of items, including gun cases. And then on October 28th, 2 men are seen moving bikes into the unit. During October, the visitors are seen with large, heavy totes. Sometimes they put things in the unit, then remove them within days. The last time anyone visits the facility in October is on the 28th. Nobody comes back for nearly a month. But on November 24th, Lori and a man are again seen on camera. They stay for 4 minutes and leave. 2 days later, Rexburg police go to her townhouse for a welfare check on JJ. The next day, November 27th, officers serve a search warrant at the home and then go to the storage unit with a search warrant. Inside, they find bikes, a scooter, winter clothing, a photo album with pictures of the children, sports equipment, a backpack with JJ's initials, a jersey with Colby's name, Lori's oldest son, along with ice skates and blankets. One showing photos of JJ, the other with pictures of Tylee. Detectives photographed everything, and in January, when Lori's credit card was declined several times, Self Storage Plus notified the police. Workers say officers have not returned since the end of November. Workers have reached out to Daybell multiple times, but they have been unsuccessful in reaching her, and she has not contacted them. Now, here at Self Storage Plus, they realized the other day that Lori may have been using their facility. They called their security system Elite Surveillance. They came up and helped them pull the footage, and now they are waiting to see what's next. Reporting in Rexburg, I'm Nate Eaton, EastIdahoNews.com.
Confirmed by surveillance footage, the storage unit was visited a total of 10 times. Now, when she signed the lease, she was alone on October 1st. Now, on October 2nd and 3rd, she was there with another male. Now, it's being speculated that it's Alex Cox, but we're going to talk about that in a little bit because I'm not sure it was. Between October 6th and October 26th, it was visited a handful of times by a gentleman who was alone, who was also believed to be Alex Cox. And then on October 28th, 2 men put all the children's belongings in there, which were the bikes and the different things that we see in that video clip. On November 24th of 2019 is the last time that this storage unit was visited. Keep in mind that is 2 days before the welfare check was conducted on the children. Stands to reason that they really had no time to go back to the storage unit to claim anything that was in it. All right, so as we get into October of 2019, things really seem to just kind of go off the rails. Like we just saw with the storage unit, there's some weird activity coming and going in and out of there. It's just bizarre. At that time, nobody realized that the children were in fact missing, but they were officially off the grid and hadn't been heard from. Now, that's going on up in Idaho. Now down in Arizona, there's also some strange activity beginning to take place. So let's talk about Melanie and Brandon again. So Brandon, Melanie's estranged husband, is shot at in a drive-by shooting in his driveway. It was later determined that the vehicle used in that drive-by shooting was registered to Charles Vallow, and it was known to be the Jeep that Tylee Ryan drove regularly. Once the news broke that the children were in fact missing, and the media was getting some information about all the strange activity going on around Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, Brandon takes to Facebook and makes this post on December 21st of 2019 explaining what happened to him and explaining what he, and giving a little insight as to what he knows about what Lori and Melanie have been up to. Brandon's profile is public. You can reach out to him via Facebook. He also had posted some things he wanted shared, so definitely go to his profile. It'll be linked down below, and go ahead and get that word out just like he's asked. So let's read over what he said. He says, on October 2nd, on my way home from the gym, someone sat outside my home and shot a gun at me. They hit my vehicle and missed my head by inches. I have reason to believe this was related to all of the following events. I will only share things in this post that are public information, so please don't ask for more. Please also understand I know firsthand how scary these people can be, and by sharing, I realize it can make us a target. As someone who has spent the last 2 months in hiding to protect my kids, I don't take this lightly, but I want to be a person who stands and fights for truth and justice. I have thought a lot about it, and I have to share this. I can no longer sit by when by sharing, I might help someone who knows something to come forward. Okay, this story is about my wife's cousin, JJ. He's a beautiful, intelligent 7-year-old with the biggest heart, most beautiful smile, and has life challenges of a level 2 boy on the autism spectrum. Early intervention allowed him to flourish beyond all expectations. Lori was a wonderful, loving, attentive mother. Things started changing over the past 18 months when Lori began spending all of her time with a new religious group that we refer to as a cult. She eventually deserted Charles and JJ for 2.5 months earlier this year. Charles did his best to save the marriage, of which she had no interest. My wife at this time, Melanie, began spending a lot of time with this group. At the end of June, she demanded a divorce, claiming revelation about things that were not real, and there was no evidence given, just a claim of being told by the Savior. So, sidebar, it seems that Lori and Melanie were, working up the ladder of this, group or whatever you want to call it, because pretty quickly you get revelations and, tips from the other side. On July 11th, 2019 in Chandler, Arizona, Charles went to Lori's home, which he paid for, to get JJ and take to school. She and her brother Alex were there. Alex shot Charles in the chest, killing him, claiming self-defense. 4 people were there that day: Lori, Alex, and the 2 missing children. Alex mysteriously passed away on December 12th, and these 2 children haven't been seen since September. Worse still, Lori had already remarried, and the wife of her new husband, Chad Daybell, mysteriously died on October 19th in Rexburg, Idaho. I'm posting this and articles related to the case, begging anyone who believes in justice to please share my post. Help us shed light on this. Someone out there knows something, but doesn't know how all of the pieces fit together. Help me connect them with the police so we can bring justice to Charles and the other victims. Please join us in prayer and fasting that we find JJ and Tylee alive. Please like and share this to help bring the truth to authorities. Please feel free to DM me with questions about the provided links. Although Brandon had, like he just said, for the last 2 months, so if he made this post and towards the end of December, he's likely been in hiding ever since this happened in October. And the fact that people are now paying attention to what's going on surrounding Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell and their recent activity, he had the guts to stand up and be like, you know what, this can't happen to anybody else. Enough's enough. And he's finally come forward. He's done a couple media interviews. He doesn't put himself out there very often, but the fact that he is stepping up and being a voice for some people that no longer have a voice, like Charles, is really, really something to be admired. The link to his Facebook profile will be down below. So you guys definitely check that out. And there's also a picture there at the bottom of your screen where you can see his car and the damage caused by the gunshots, which you can see the window is shot out. So remember a couple minutes ago when we were talking about the surveillance footage from the storage unit? I have a hard time believing that that was Alex Cox in the video with Lori, especially on the second, because Brandon later stated that he believes the person behind the wheel doing the shooting was Alex. It's a 14-hour drive, at least one way, going from Idaho down to Brandon's area of Arizona. So drive time, it wasn't an option for Alex. Now, could he have hopped a plane? Absolutely. I have a hard time understanding how people believe that was Alex, knowing what went down in Arizona at the time. So I just want to throw that out there and see what you guys think. So with that being said, we're going to introduce the Daybells back into the story. Now, just a week after this took place with Brandon, there was a similar situation that took place at the Daybell home with Tammy in the driveway. So on October 9th, Tammy Daybell calls 911 and said there was an armed person in her driveway. She later made this Facebook post. Okay, neighbors, something really weird just happened, and I want you to know so you can watch out. I'd gotten home and parked in our front driveway. As I was getting stuff out of the back seat, a guy wearing a ski mask was suddenly standing by the back of my car with a paintball gun. He shot at me several times, although I don't think it was loaded. I yelled for Chad and he ran off around the back of my house. I have no idea what his motive was, and he never spoke, even after I asked him several times what he thought he was doing. I was about to smack him with my freezer meals from entrapment tonight when I decided to yell for Chad instead. Tammy firmly believed that this was a paintball gun, or that it could have been kids in the neighborhood playing a joke. I mean, she has 5 children. She knows kids do crazy shit. And albeit kids cross the line plenty of times, so this to her was just some kid being a jackass. I don't know the woman, never met her. Would I call her naive? I don't want to, but I feel like knowing what we know now, it's easy to look back and call her that. What we've learned since all these other pieces of the puzzle are coming together is that around that time, Chad was telling friends that he was having revelations or visions of his wife passing away. He had had these conversations on more than one occasion. They took place with a woman named Julie Rowe, who we're going to talk about briefly here in a few minutes. He started making these comments and saying that he saw this coming. So we're going to talk about something else I'm curious about as far as this October 9th, 2019, especially in regards to Chad. Just 10 days after this armed person was standing in her driveway, Tammy Daybell goes to sleep and never wakes up. Chad Daybell wakes to find his wife unresponsive and she is pronounced dead. He tells his father-in-law later on that she went to bed with a bad cough and that she just simply didn't wake up. She is laid to rest on October 22nd of 2019. Before we go on and talk about her a few more minutes, I have a few questions. Her husband of 29 years. Now, in the last few days, there has been audio come out of Arizona authorities calling Idaho authorities and wanting to get more information about the day that Tammy passed away. You do hear authorities in Arizona asking about more information, and he's wanting to know specifically about an autopsy. The person that he gets hold of says basically that, yeah, if they don't want an autopsy, they don't have to get one. The guy in Arizona was like, even at her being so young, he's like, yeah, she's like, yeah, basically, if the family doesn't want it, they don't have to do it. Now, there's been a lot of talk about religious beliefs and all those different things come into it, which is probably partially true. Another thing I've been thinking about is considering that Chad and Tammy were so active in their community, I imagine that all the first responders that showed up there, he knew. Everybody that worked, the medical examiner's office, he probably knew. So when it came to Tammy, he was like, my gosh, please just let the woman rest. We're not going to disrupt her. Let's imagine that he was pretty easily able to keep everything calm and cool, raise no red flags, and just move on to the day of her funeral. My next question, considering there was an armed person in their driveway just 10 days prior, if that was the original plan for something to happen to Tammy made it clear that Chad was home with the idea of his wife being gunned down in their driveway for himself and even his children to see. Was he really okay with that? I really don't for a second buy the paintball story. I appreciate that she had managed to see the good in the world, even though in my opinion and many others, it was likely not a paintball gun. It was a gun that had jammed and things just didn't go as planned. So I would really like to know how complicit Chad was in all of this planning of stuff, because looking back, hindsight, you cannot say these things were not planned. You just can't. And if you can find a reason and explain to me why they weren't planned and how all of these coincidences can take place, I would really love an explanation. I would love for somebody to break that down for me. Chad and Tammy had been married for 29 years at this point. 29 years. They clearly have built a life together. They owned and operated a business together. They had 5 children. They have grandkids. They have this seemingly amazing life, and they're very active in their community. Whoever took the time and worked together to put together her memorial page on the funeral home's website are beautiful people. And I really don't care about their religious beliefs or if there, any rumors of them being, I don't give a shit, because what they said about this woman makes you just want to reach through the screen and give her a hug, even though that's impossible at this point. Now, the link to her full obituary is linked down below, but I want to read you this bottom paragraph, because this is the part that just makes you want to just scoop her up and be like, don't go home today. Tammy's true focus throughout her life was her family. From serving a delicious dinner each Sunday to remembering every birthday and holiday with gifts. She also loved all sorts of animals, but she especially loved Indian runner ducks. She also raised pigeons, chickens, cats, and rabbits, knowing each one by name. She loved gardening, cooking, and playing games with the family. Her laugh will be remembered and cherished. I definitely encourage you guys to read all of that. Leave a nice note for her family. No one would believe that if your wife of 29 years had just passed away, the mother of your children, or the grandmother of your grandchildren, you would be distraught. You would just be beside yourself. I wouldn't know what to do with myself. However, not our buddy Chad. Tammy is laid to rest on October 22nd of 2019. Guess what Chad's doing on November 5th of 2019? He is attending a wedding. Not of that of a friend. Oh, no. He is getting married to Lori Vallow. Take a peek.
These exclusive wedding photos, taken a month after her children were last seen, were obtained by ABC News. They show the happy-looking couple in early November in Hawaii, Chad playing the ukulele while Lori dances on the beach.
So you need to tell me that this asshole just within 2 weeks of his wife passing away, hops on a plane and was like, aloha kids, I'm going to Hawaii, gotta take my mind off things, and comes back married? Bullshit. Folks are in cahoots here, some way, shape, or form. Something is going on. It only gets worse the further we get into it. Not only are Chad and Lori now married and doing some very questionable things given the fact that nobody seems to know where her children are, now we're going back to crazy Melanie, Lori's niece, who is really stepping things up a notch with her brand of crazy. So remember how Melanie came home and tells Brandon after 11 years, hey, I want a divorce, I'm out, deuces. Their divorce is finally finalized. November 14th of 2019, Melanie is arrested for trespassing on Brandon's family's property.
October 2nd, just days after JJ and Tylee go missing, a call comes in to Arizona police.
911, where's your emergency?
Someone just shot my window.
A man named Brandon Boudreau tells police another man shot at him as Brandon drove home, shattering his driver's side window.
Did you see the guy that
I didn't see who it was.
Brandon told Fox 13 he believed the shooting was linked to his ex-wife Melanie Boudreau's newfound religious beliefs she shared with her aunt, Lori Vallow Daybell, the mother of JJ and Tylee. Just over a month later, a dramatic 911 call came into American Fork, Utah police.
The police are on their way! Get away from my door! Now!
Melanie showed up to Brandon's father's house in Utah, driven by her uncle, Alex Cox, according to police reports.
Somebody tried to kill my son 3 weeks ago in Phoenix.
Oh, that's terrible.
I believe that she's involved in it.
Police arrested Melanie and cited her with trespassing. The uncle who drove her, Alex Cox, is the man who shot and killed Lori's late husband, Charles Vallow, in Arizona in July of last year.
So not only is Melanie pushing the envelope trying to get her children, but she brings along Alex Cox, who by this point we're all pretty well aware He's got a track history of doing some pretty crazy shit. Not only is he suspected of the attempted murder of Melanie's ex-husband Brandon, he's being implicated in the event that took place in the Daybell's driveway with Tammy and the masked gunman. He shot and killed Lori's fourth husband, claiming self-defense, and now he's driving Melanie to try to go get her children. In my opinion, I'm sure he was there to lure Brandon into something so he could pull the self-defense card yet again. In my opinion, it's shady as shit, but Alex Cox took her there. What were the intentions? I can't imagine they were good. That was not going to end well, and I'm glad it did not escalate to the point where somebody's life was taken over whatever these extremist beliefs they now have are. So now at the end of November, we're getting to the part of this case where everybody seems to be familiar with. Is the part where people figured out that the children were in fact unaccounted for. A welfare check is requested by Larry and Kay Woodcock, shown below with JJ, after not being able to make contact with Lori and the children. Rexburg PD conducts the check and are informed that the children are visiting family and friends in Arizona. Lori gives up some contact information. Authorities make contact with those people, and they're like, no, kids are not here, haven't seen them, don't know what you're talking about. Authorities then the next day go back to Chad and Lori's townhome, and they're like, knock, knock, knock. Oh, nobody's home. Why? Because Alex Cox, who lived next door, along with Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, have fled. They're gone. Nobody knows where they are. So police conduct a search warrant on the property, and that's how all of this starts to come together. This event right here. One might think, okay, people are looking for these children, you know, we need to like figure something out, maybe give up the information about where the kids are, but no. Clearly that's not what you do when you have this kind of ideology in your head. When children are missing, you go to Vegas and get hitched. There wasn't only one wedding within days of the children being discovered as unaccounted for. There was two. So on the 29th, Alex marries a woman named Wilma. We don't know much about her. And the following day, Melanie marries a man named Ian. Ian had recently been divorced as well in July of 2019. Lori's current lawyer was Ian's divorce lawyer. So everybody's kind of all intertwined and everybody kind of knows everybody. But the sudden need for everybody to go and get married after authorities are starting to poke around begs a few questions here, demands some more answers. I can't wrap my head around it. I don't understand. So since Lori and Chad are now off and running, trying to evade authorities to have to answer to where the hell her children are, did they go to Vegas and just hang out, have a couple drinks at the club, enjoy some weddings? I mean, who knows? And clearly it was a family affair. I don't understand why Lori and Chad probably didn't take part. That concludes the wedding portion of November. Now we start getting into some other... when you think that the story can't get crazier, it absolutely does. So let's keep going. So now we're rolling into December when authorities are really starting to piece together all these oddities and all these different events that seemingly are surrounding one person, that person being Lori Vallow. But now they're starting to understand that Chad Daybell really has some stuff going on with this case too, and they're trying to figure out where he fits in. So let's go ahead and review December and see what they find out. On December 6th of 2019, a search warrant is served on JJ School in Arizona. We're going to look at that document here in a few minutes and I'll tell you exactly what they were looking for. Due to all the weird circumstances that are coming to light, authorities look further into Tammy Daybell's death and exhumed her body on December 11th. The very next day, December 12th, Alex Cox, Lori's brother, he dies mysteriously. Just poof, he passes away. I will link down below a video I did specifically about the day Alex passed away, talking about the 911 phone call that was made that day, as well as some other questionable things surrounding it. The most interesting part of that 911 phone call is that the young man who found Alex refers to him as his mother's boyfriend. Less than 2 weeks before his passing, Alex got married. So is this really the wife, or is this the girlfriend, or is the wife some sort of cover-up for some other shady shit going down? Who the hell knows? But the whole thing surrounding Alex's death is very, very interesting. On December 20th, Rexburg police they officially announced the disappearance of Tylee and JJ and asked the public's assistance for any information. Police make it very clear that Chad and Lori are not cooperating, and the following day, on the 21st, they announced Chad and Lori persons of interest in the disappearance of the children. Then on December 23rd, we get our first look into their awesome lawyer. He is a man of very few words, and in my opinion, he's in way over his head with what Lori and Chad have got going on right now. But this is his statement. Chad Daybell was a loving husband and has the support of his children in this matter. Lori Daybell is a devoted mother and resents assertions to the contrary. I don't even know how he could say that with a straight face. We look forward to addressing the allegations once they have moved beyond speculation and rumors. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that to move beyond speculation, maybe you cough up some information. Maybe you just kind of say, this is where my children are, this is what's going on. Then maybe your balls wouldn't be busted about all this other strange shit that happens to be going on around you too. Just my 2 cents. I mean, I know I'm no lawyer, but stands to reason that makes sense to a lot of people. Now, when law enforcement served the search warrant on JJ's previous school in Arizona, this is what they were requesting. All school records for Joshua Jackson Vallow with the date of birth, May 25, 2012, including personal identifying information, family information, medical conditions including prescribed medications, time of attendance, documented contact with family, and any forwarding information to potential new schools. And this is dated December 6th of 2019. So very quickly after they figured out that the kids were gone, within a week or so, they were really putting some boots to the ground and trying to figure something out. So as 2019 draws to a close, law enforcement has now put together the fact that there are 3 mysterious deaths, there are likely 2 attempted murders, and there are definitely 2 missing children surrounding one person, and that person being Lori Vallow. Like I said, they did exhume Tammy Daybell's body, and even to date, which is, the second week of February, there's been no information released about that. But what makes myself and a lot of other people believe that there was something nefarious found is the fact that on January 3rd, 2020, authorities did serve a search warrant at the Daybell property. You don't just get a search warrant because you're nosy and you want to go poke around. You have to have enough probable cause to have that, and clearly they did, and they went in and they removed a bunch of items, including a multitude of electronics equipment. So let's take a look at that.
Investigators in Idaho are sifting through some new evidence tonight collected from the home of Chad Daybell.
That's the man who they think is involved in the disappearance of 2 children. Fox 13's Lauren Steinbrecher is in Fremont County, Idaho tonight with what police were looking for. Lauren, did they find what they were looking for?
Yeah, not sure, and it could be some time before we find out what exactly they collected. But detectives returned here tonight to the sheriff's office after spending hours going over that home, collecting items, collecting evidence in the death of Tammy Daybell. Fremont County Sheriff's deputies returned to the home they responded to in October when Tammy Daybell was found dead from what they first ruled as natural causes. This time, they're here with the FBI and Rexburg police looking for forensic evidence.
That's what we're looking for and hoping to find was something that would help identify if there was something that was used in her death.
Tammy's husband, Chad Daybell, remarried weeks after Tammy's death to Lori Vallow. Lori's children, 7-year-old Joshua Vallow and 17-year-old Tylee Ryan, have been missing since September.
Those are the 2 pieces of this. And how they're related, we're not quite sure. We do believe they are related.
Fremont County Sheriff Len Humphreys says Tammy's death is now suspicious. Her body was exhumed in Utah, but he says they're still weeks out from seeing autopsy results. Chad and Lori have disappeared and refused to cooperate.
We do think they've left Idaho, but that's about all.
Chad's adult children, who Sheriff Humphreys says live at this home, also haven't talked to them. They didn't have any comment when we knocked on the door Friday night.
We aren't making any statements at this time.
Okay, all right. Fremont County will work on figuring out how Tammy died while Rexburg police continue to look for the children and hopefully get answers to how this is all related and if the kids are okay. Now that they've brought everything back, here comes testing and processing all of that evidence to see what it comes up with. Live in St. Anthony, Idaho, Lauren Steinbrecher, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Now we're going to talk about a woman named Julie Rowe. She is an interesting character. Julie met Chad through he and Tammy's publishing company, and he actually did publish some of her work. They had a working relationship for a few years. She claims that they eventually developed a friendship and they just became friends. Now, she was excommunicated from LDS in early 2019. I don't know why. I don't really care but she says that was just a big deal, and that her and Chad kind of had a falling out over that, and then they'd come back together. I don't know. She describes a roller coaster of things that she's very hard to follow. She says that her and Chad have very similar abilities. She talks about how her angels advise her of everything she does, and her and Chad have both mentioned their veil. And I still have yet to figure out if it's good to have your veil intact or if your veil is torn. I don't understand which one is better. And I don't want to know, to be honest with you. It's very bizarre thinking, in my opinion, but if that works for them, it works for them. Julie Rowe is a person who claims that Chad was talking to her about his angels telling him that something was going to happen to Tammy. She says in one of her interviews that, oh yes, I saw the same thing, and I hate to burst both their bubbles, but everybody passes away. So this revelation doesn't seem that great until you put it all into the mixture of all the craziness that's going on surrounding his new wife, and then it doesn't look so black and white. Julie Rowe is claiming that the media and all these, Larry and Kay Woodcock and all these people are coming after Chad and just viciously attacking him, and they just don't understand his power, and they're just sabotaging his character, his reputation. She just goes on and on and on and on and on, and will make your head hurt. I have sat through 2 of her interviews, or whatever you want to call them, in regards to Chad. They will be linked down below. My warning is just, you've been warned. There's no disclaimer to put in front of this woman, in my opinion, so good luck to you. But she definitely has some interesting things to say, and in my opinion, she kind of flip-flops back and forth on Chad. And then first she's supporting Lori, and then she's not. She's talking about Lori is a false prophet, but Chad is all good. If you want to watch that, you go right for it. It'll be linked down. They'll be linked down below. Also, just after the first of the year, Colby Ryan starts taking to YouTube to make public pleas to his family, and especially to his mother, to at least let people know where his brother and sister are. Since releasing his first video, he has done a few now, and in every video is more heartfelt and fresh. He sounds so much more frustrated than he did in the one prior. And now for him to have to see what his mother abandoned in that storage unit, I can only imagine how this young man feels right now. I'm not going to play any portions of his videos because he does a damn good job of telling his own story. His channel will be linked down below, and I invite you guys to go watch every single one of his videos. Absolutely leave him some words of encouragement and send some good vibes his way. He definitely needs them at this time. Here's a couple quotes from his first video. I love my family more than anything. I love Tylee. I love JJ. I don't think people understand that a lot of stuff has been going on for us personally this year, and then with my family. So obviously things really got out of hand, and things started happening more a couple months ago. Now, and this was posted in January, so he is talking about fall of 2019 from what I can gather. He is a young man that simply wants to know where his siblings are, and for a while he was talking to the screen as if he was talking to his mother. Definitely check out his channel and definitely give him some support. On January 7th of 2020 is when Larry and Kay Woodcock announced their reward of $20,000 for information leading directly to the recovery of Tylee and JJ. They did a very long interview in Idaho when they announced this, and they were pleading for information and talking about different experiences they'd had with Lori, talking about their relationship with JJ. I don't understand how anyone can look at these people and say that they have any ill intent. All they want is their grandson back and their niece. That's it. That's all they want. I hope by all means that anybody who sees anything regarding this case shares information about these children, and hopefully someone somewhere will come forward and say, hey, this is what happened, or hey, this is where they are. We only want what's best for them, Larry says. Please give them back to us. That's it. They're not asking for much. They're simply asking for these children. By the middle of January, nobody knew where Chad and Lori were. No one. They hadn't been seen since they fled Rexburg, Idaho on November 27th. There'd be no sign of them anywhere, just like no sign of the children. Well, that all changed on January 25th of 2020. Out of the blue, authorities announced that they did locate Chad and Tammy in Kauai, Hawaii, and that she was served with a child protective order. So on the 25th, Lori is served with a child protective order, and that order stated she had 5 days to prevent her children to Rexburg authority. On the 26th, Lori and Chad are pulled over, also in Kauai, served with a search warrant, and their rental car is seized. Every media outlet reported on this portion of the story. All of a sudden it was interesting. These people are missing, and now they're in Hawaii, and oh my gosh, it's so exciting. But one of the people who had been following this case, like I said, since day one, was Nate Eaton. And he hauled ass from Idaho over to Kauai and actually met up with them around the same time their car was being towed. And he's the one that we've all seen the video of now, chasing her down the road, just firing questions at her, one after another, one after another, one after another. Let's take a little peek.
Lori, Nate Eaton with East Idaho News. Can you tell me where your kids are? Where are your kids?
No comment.
No comment? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say? You're over here in Hawaii? Where are your children? Yeah, why don't you just give us a comment? Just tell us where they are. Chad, where are Lori's kids? What happened to Tammy, Chad? Can you tell us what happened to Tammy? Why have you guys been in Hawaii for so long? Listen, just tell people what's happening. There's people around the country praying for your children, praying for you guys. Why don't you give us answers?
That's great.
That's great. That's great that they're praying for you, praying for your kids. What? You have nothing to say? Did you do something to your children? Are your children still alive? That's a simple question. I've got 3 kids of my own. I can tell you every minute where my kids are at. Where are your children? What do you guys plan to do now? Are you have 5 days to get your children in front of a judge in Rexburg, then what? Are you guys innocent of any crimes? Have you committed any crimes? Chad, you guys have a lot to say on your podcast. You don't have anything to say now? Lori? Do you believe that you were instructed by God or others to do something for your children? If you could give a message to them, what would you say? Listen, if you just talk to us, we'll leave you alone.
The family's worried. Tammy's family's very worried.
Tammy's family's very worried. Lori, your mother, Kay, came out. Kay and Larry, they're offering a $20,000 reward for your children. And you're over here on the beach? This is your chance to tell your story. Nothing you want to say? One last chance right here. Anything you want to say to the people in Idaho?
So she's just strolling down the road, you know, with her resting bitch face, and Chad looks like a big-ass doofus just walking along, and neither one of them have nothing to say. The only time she responds is when Nate makes a statement, you know, there's people all over praying for your children. She's like, that's great. So just look at her and how arrogant and how big of an asshole she is, just frustrates the shit out of me. This is a child protective order she was served with that weekend, and it states, the above captioned children shall be placed in shelter care in the custody of the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare if and when they are located. And shelter care shall be held within 48 hours after placement of the children. The Idaho Department of Health and Welfare shall conduct an investigation into the health, safety, and welfare of the minor children and provide the resulting report to the court within 15 days of the issuance of this order. Lori Vallow shall physically produce the minor children to the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare within 5 days of this order. Specifically, Lori Vallow must turn over the children to the Health and Welfare Office, and it gives the location. It finishes up by saying, upon the children being placed in shelter care, the court will appoint a guardian ad litem for the children, an attorney for the guardian ad litem, and an attorney for the children. So there was 2 months there where this batshit crazy woman knew that people were looking for her children, they were concerned for her children's well-being, and she is just living it up in Hawaii. So, like I said, the media kind of picked up some steam at this point because everybody was like, oh my gosh, this lady's kids are missing and she's in Hawaii. And even the media that picked up on it temporarily still had no clue as to the bottomless pit of nuts that surrounded this case. They had no clue. People are poking and prodding and everybody's trying to figure out, well, why are they in Hawaii? What happened to our kids? They're not understanding that there's all this other stuff going on too. While some media and different outlets are over there in Hawaii, they start asking around and they're getting information from neighbors and other people on the island to see if anybody knows anything about Chad and Lori. This is the house in Princeville on the Hawaiian island of Kauai where Chad and Lori Daybell are staying. Police also served a search warrant at the location Sunday. Neighbors had no idea who the couple is or what had happened. And that was going along with the point I was getting ready to make, is that nobody knew who these people were. The media, with the exception of a handful of people, the media only came around because it's a tabloid-worthy story. And that's the problem with this entire story, is that nobody knows who these people are. Nobody understands what's going on surrounding them. And at the surface, you think, okay, her 2 kids are missing and she's on an extended honeymoon in Hawaii. What's so weird about that? Well, then people started figuring out, you scratch a little deeper into that surface and you just unleash 10 kinds of crazy. The problem with nobody knowing who Lori and Chad are, the less people that know, the less likely it is that there's going to be any information that lead to the safe return of her children. Period. We don't need this story to be covered in the sense a tabloid headline, which I'm seeing a lot of right now, and that's very frustrating because once it gets to like the tabloid section of the magazine rack, nobody takes it seriously. And this is very serious. There are 2 children that are missing. There are people that have lost their lives. There are people who almost lost their life, and every single one of these people surround Lori Vallow. That's a problem if nobody knows who this bitch is. The tweet on the right says, when did Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell arrive in Kauai? Resident who wants to be anonymous says around December 10th. Sources say he never saw the kids and couple hung by the pool lot. The condo is a 3-bedroom, 3-bath selling for $719,000. Or since the time of people being there and poking around in Kauai, no one ever saw the children with them. They said they pretty much hung out by themselves, didn't talk to nobody. I'm assuming she walked around town with that resting bitch face. Who the hell would want to approach that anyway? The scariest part is no one ever saw the kids there. Nobody saw the kids there. We're still right back to the point of where the hell are your children? That's all anybody wants to know. January 30th was on a Thursday, and that was the last time I posted a timeline. I figured that was a good spot to end it because things would hopefully change at 5 p.m. Idaho time that day. Unfortunately, nothing has changed. Lori did not present the children. Her and Chad are still kicking it in Hawaii. They don't have a care in the world. Larry was probably too upset to even come out and make a statement, but they sat down with reporters and did about a 30-minute press conference with them and gave some of her opinions about what Lori may or may not be up to. So let's listen to her.
Here at the Rexburg Police Department, no sign of Lori Daybell and her 2 children, JJ and Tylee. She was issued a court order on Saturday that she had to have those kids here or at the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare in Rexburg, and it appears she did not fulfill that court order. 2 people who did show up, JJ's grandparents, the Woodcocks. They say that they're not surprised that Lori didn't come.
She's not going to make it easy. However, I don't know that she realizes the caliber of the people she's playing with, being the law enforcement. So even though she's managed to drag this from Arizona and Utah and Idaho and now Hawaii, it's going to catch up with her.
Now, it's unclear what will happen now with Lori Daybell because this case is sealed as are other child protection cases. But a judge could issue a warrant for her arrest because she is in contempt of court. The judge could also issue her a fine, or the judge could decide to do nothing. The prosecutor says he legally cannot comment any more than he has already commented, and the Rexburg Police Department declined to issue any further statements as well. As for Kay Woodcock, she's just hoping for a peaceful resolution.
We've got a whole army of people behind us that are friends and family supporting us, and strangers across the nation. I would like for her to be in jail until she talks. If that's a month or a year or whatever the situation, she needs to be there until she talks. She's got to say where they are. She has to. There's one way or the other, she's going to have to come clean.
All Larry and Kay want are those children back. They're willing to do anything they can in order to make that a reality. So the day after Lori chose not to show up and present her children, Larry and Kay filed for guardianship of JJ. Larry and Kay confirmed with Justin Lum that the Idaho Department of Health is conducting an investigation into the missing children's safety. And that report was due on February 10th of 2020. We're still waiting on an update on that. I've seen them get a lot of heat because they're not doing the same thing for Tylee. Here's the deal. Biologically, they're not related to Tylee. They don't have a legal leg to stand on when it comes to her. And that's unfortunate. But they are still very much invested in getting her back. It's just that legally, their hands are kind of tied. I really hope that for whoever thinks it's a good idea to bash Kay and Larry for anything they're doing, really takes a second look at that and understands that legally you can only do so much in this world. It makes sense to do things a different way, but unfortunately laws are laws and we have to abide by them, or otherwise we're going to look like Lori Vallow, and nobody wants to look like that right now. Try to understand that Larry and Kay are doing everything they can, and what they can do is go after guardianship of JJ. So that's where we are with that as of right now. Now clearly I've done a lot of thinking about this case. I spend a lot of time looking up things around this case and even going over some of the things we already know, trying to make some puzzle pieces fit here, because nothing fits yet. We couldn't even begin to put this puzzle together in its entirety, and it's probably going to be a hot minute before we're able to do that. Is anybody shocked that Lori didn't bring her children? Absolutely not. I think the world would have been more shocked had she have presented her children. That would have been the more shocking of the two options here, right? And I'm thinking the fact that she doesn't feel like she has to is because in whatever community she has inserted herself into, that it's common for you not to be with your children. I don't know about anybody else, but I know for me, and cults and pretty much extremist groups have always been an interest of mine. And a common thing that you will see is that children are separated from their parents. They are pushed into like group homes of sorts in different kind of shitty circumstances. It is what it is. I'm just wondering if she's decided that she doesn't have to abide by the law because her veil or torn veil or whatever the hell, whatever her angels are telling her, that it's okay, that she doesn't have to be with her children. I'm starting to wonder if she believes because her belief system says that you don't have to be with your children, that just totally negates any sort of law of the land from applying to her. Because remember, according to her, she's some sort of translated being who has been sent here directly from the heavens above to save 144,000 people. So she's got, more important things to do than deal with Idaho authorities. If preparing for her mission means sitting on her ass in the middle of Hawaii, not giving a shit about anything, she's doing a damn good job. But the more I learn about this case, it would not be shocking at all to find that most of these adults do not have access to their children, and that's probably by their own choice. It wouldn't shock me if that was a common thread between her and her fellow members, or whatever the hell you want to call them. That's just my 2 cents on that. And that's what also makes it scarier to think that finding out the location of those children, it's going to get harder and harder because a lot of these groups like this move underground. I mean, it's not like these parents call up every night and be like, how was your day? No, that's not how it works. Kind of scary to think, where the hell could these children be? Hell, they could be halfway across the world by now and nobody would know. The more I kind of roll it around with some other facts of the case, that tends to be where my mind goes. Because frankly, if I have to consider the alternative, and that those children are no longer with us, that's unbearable. I don't want to do that. So I'd like to believe that they are really in hiding, not by their own choice, but by their mothers. After the storage unit surveillance footage hit the news, people were blowing up their phone and they were wanting more information. Specifically, a lot of people were wanting to know if there was more than one camera angle view. If I had to guess, I would say there is, but that's not going to be the part that's released to us. But they wanted to go ahead and release a statement. It reads, due to numerous media inquiries, Self Storage Plus would like to provide this statement. First and foremost, Self Storage Plus hopes for the speedy and safe return of JJ and Tylee. Our thoughts and prayers are with all those people who have been affected by this tragedy. Self Storage Plus is a local Rexburg business that rented a storage unit to Lori Vallow Daybell. Self Storage Plus is working with local authorities who are investigating this matter, and so as not to jeopardize their investigation, we will not be providing any further information at this time. Again, Self Storage Plus hopes for the speedy and safe return of JJ and Tylee. Anyone with information relating to this matter should contact the following: Rexburg Police Department at 208-359-3000 or Nate Eaton at East Idaho News. In addition to the storage company getting inundated for information, JJ's previous school was also being asked a lot of questions and sent a lot of media requests. And here's partially what they released. Our hearts continue to ache during this time. We all want to know where JJ is and know that he's safe. JJ is a beautiful boy who has a smile that goes on for days. His joy of life was contagious. He started with us a very quiet child and soon blossomed into a child who loved coming to class, loved being with his friends, and loved to talk about his family. And what that school just said about JJ is exactly what Larry and Kay have been saying about him all along, and how he was a joyful kid, regardless of all these obstacles that were given to him in his short period of life. He somehow found the joy in it, and he just made the best of every situation from what I can gather. And he was always smiling and always laughing. And there's this video where you see Larry and JJ singing on the bus, and you can just hear the giddiness in his voice because he's getting to be a little kid, and that's all he is just a little. These school officials sound like, because they had to be so one-on-one with the children that they worked with, they really got to know each of these children personally. And it breaks my heart to know that there's school officials, there's people from the storage unit that are coming out and making public statements, and public pleas for information. You can turn on all sorts of media now, and even getting into the tabloid people. They're asking for information regarding Tylee and JJ. The only two people that are not asking for information regarding Tylee and JJ are Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. They're the only two people seemingly on the planet who do not care to know or want to shed light on where these children are. You would think that they would be the first two people in line to want some answers or to provide information, but absolutely not. The more I go over this case and the more I talk about it and think about it and research it, all that can be confirmed is that you cannot rationalize irrational behaviors and activities. You just can't. I don't think she's concerned, because all she seems to be concerned with, and then the documents that Charles filed over a year ago, is her new mission to lead 144,000 people into the New Jerusalem. Which, by the way, mark your calendars, because that shit's going down in July of 2020. That's only a few months away. Over the course of the last few days, CBS is confirming that Tylee's phone was found in the possession of Lori Vallow. It's not been made clear what was exactly on that telephone, but we do know that on at least one occasion, one of Tylee's friends said she did receive a text from Tylee, but it didn't sound like anything. It didn't sound like Tylee's normal text lingo. Phones have been something I've been curious about this entire time. Digital footprints are hard to get away from in this day and age. So I'm very curious to see what investigators have found on, let's say, those electronics that they took from the Daybell residence back in January. I would love to know what those phone records indicate for locations of Alex Cox, namely, and then Lori Vallow. And then, of course, Chad. And I would love to know the kind of communication that Chad's still having with his children, because how the hell are they totally cool with this? Like, how the hell are they totally cool with their dad just up and leaving a week or two after their mom is buried and getting remarried to this broad in Hawaii? I mean, I would love to know how all of these communications are going down. It's got to be absolutely fascinating for investigators. Out of pure curiosity, and also how it relates to the case, I really do want to know what Chad's kids know or don't know. Another person I really want to know where is she at now is Melanie. Where is she? Because she seemed to be Lori's right-hand gal there for a hot minute, and now all of a sudden she seems been, she's not been brought up as to how anything relates to recent times. Are they in contact with her, or what's going on there? Lori and Alex do have other siblings. However, they had been estranged from them for quite some time, and I don't know all the details to that. It's not really my business, but if I were a betting person, which, by the way, I love to go to a good casino, I would guess that Lori and Alex probably pulled some shady shit on their own family throughout the course of time, and they were like, you know what, I'm done. I'm just done with it. Because we don't see Lori's family coming forward and saying, hey, just give back the children. I don't know if they're just doing it because they're, done with her, or if there's a fear factor there. If we consider what Brandon was talking about, how him and his children were living in hiding for 2 months since he was shot at, that's no way to live. And if she's put the fear of her brand of crazy and everybody around her, if that's prohibiting people from coming forward, I hope to God that they understand that they would not be alone. They would have support of so many people if they were to stand up and say, hey, enough's enough, here's what I know. We're getting to a point now where desperation is in the rearview mirror. We need to know where these children are. The justice for Charles, the justice for Tammy will come in time. But right now we need to figure out where the hell these kids are and get them to people who will take care of them and make sure they're safe and sound, healthy and happy. I mean, poor Brandon, he's living in hiding with his kids because of his wife's batshit crazy actions. So imagine how many people that have been affected by this that we don't even know their names of yet. Now, while Charles's older sons haven't really stepped out, and they don't know us that, their mother, Charles's ex-wife, has, and she's got a lot to say about Lori.
Tonight, for the very first time, we're hearing from the aunt of one of the 2 missing Idaho children.
She's speaking on the same day CBS News reported the police found her niece Tylee Ryan's cell phone with Tylee's mother, Lori, in Hawaii.
Fox 13's Lauren Steinbrecher joins us with what the aunt is saying. Lauren.
Yeah, Tylee's aunt, Annie Cushing, is recounting the last time she saw Lori and Tylee and how she says she saw a seismic shift in Lori's personality. This is how Annie knew her former sister-in-law, Lolo, Lori Vallow Daybell.
Very loving and doting mother.
Speaking with us from New York City, Annie Cushing explains Lori married Annie's brother, Joe Ryan. The couple had a daughter together, Tylee. In 2018, when Joe died from a heart attack years after his divorce from Lori, Annie went to visit the mother and daughter.
This change in Lori's personality was definitely a new thing.
A change that she says included Lori saying negative things to Tylee about her father weeks after his death, lying to Annie about things, and talking about the end of times. Annie says she texted her daughter, bothered.
I said, I think Lolo may be a sociopath. I'm not in the habit of just randomly calling people sociopaths.
Just over a year later, Lori's husband and Tylee's stepfather, Charles Vallow, died, shot and killed by Lori's brother, Alex Cox. Tylee and her brother, JJ, Lori's adopted son, went missing in Idaho 2 months after that.
I felt like from the beginning, the chances of these kids being found alive were, most likely pretty remote.
This private investigator says Charles and Lori's family members hired him after Charles died.
Tylee certainly was a witness to Charles' shooting, and if anybody knows what really happened, if there is a different story to tell, it could have been Tylee to tell that story. Does that have anything to do with why she is missing? I certainly hope not.
She's just a really brilliant, creative girl who deserved a chance.
With new developments like Lori abandoning a storage unit with her kids' belongings and the CBS News report that police found Tylee's cell phone with Lori, Annie wonders what happened to the woman she loved like her own sister.
The fact that she is stepping up and saying what she knows is amazing, and I wish and I hope that more people do the same. So if you are still here, you, my friend, are a rock star. We've gone over a ton of the information that is available to us as of right now. By the time I'm done editing, there's going to be some new things that have come to light. So I will update as necessary as the case unfolds from here on out. Like I said previously, we likely won't do anything on this large of a scale as far as the timeline goes in the future, just because it's getting to be so overwhelming and we're getting more fine-tuned details of specific time frames that I'll likely just break it down into either a specific event or date or, month or two blocks. I hope this really caught everyone up to speed with this case. If you are new to this case, I realize it is a lot to take in. I am happy to answer any question I possibly can. I've been following this case since probably the second week of December when I randomly heard about it, and I started looking into it and I was like, holy shit. But now I'm fully invested in it. This is going to be my focus from moving forward, and I really hope that you guys would consider subscribing and coming on back and following this case with me. Prior to this video, I've done 9 other videos in regards to this case. They will all be linked down below. I invite you guys to watch all of them. If you have any questions, again, do not hesitate to ask. If I don't have the answer, I will definitely we will work together to find it. Please take the time to go ahead and follow Justin Lum from Fox10 and Nate Eaton from East Idaho News. I will put all of their information down below as well. And I will definitely, if any big pieces of information come out, I will definitely get that information out to you in the quickest fashion I possibly can. I realize that your guys' time is valuable, and I appreciate that you chose to spend your time with me to learn about this case. Please, anything you see about this case, share everywhere you can on social media. Whether you share this video, just sharing their NCMEC post, or sharing the reward post, or sharing anything that gets the word out and makes people aware that this is going on and that seemingly law enforcement isn't getting involved. And while that may not be the case, that there's probably plenty of things going on that the public does not know about, it does not look that way. So what we need to do as the public is make noise to put pressure on law enforcement. We need to make noise to put pressure on Lori Vallow, so then that way we can start seeing some results. Hopefully find the location of the children and get them back to people who love and care for them and want them to be nothing but happy and healthy and safe and sound. If you're having trouble getting hold of all these documents that I've shown you, anything that I've shown you, you can't get hold of it, my email is listed down below. Shoot me an email and I will get that to you so you can share it. I've had a few different creators reach out so far and like, do you care if I use your information? It's not my information, it's public. By all means, I want everybody and their brother to share this information. We need to get this information out so we can find these children and we can get some justice to all the people surrounding Lori Vallow who have lost their life. I hope wherever this video finds you, you're having the best day ever. I hope you and your loved ones are safe and sound and healthy and warm, because where I am, it is still freezing. And in 2 days from now, it's going to be a whopping 6 degrees, and I, for one, cannot wait. That's a lie. Again, if you'd really like to keep up with this case, I am going to be covering this exclusively from here on out. please consider hitting subscribe. Give me a big thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. Let's start some conversation. And be on the lookout for the scheduling of that live. As soon as it's scheduled, it will show up in your YouTube feed, so you'll be able to see that. And I will also post it on social media, and all my social media links can be found on my About page. So you guys be safe out there, stay healthy, stay warm, make good choices, and I will talk to you guys soon. See you when I see you.
Now to new developments in the search for those missing Idaho siblings whose mother fled to Hawaii after police came looking for them. Well, this morning, there are new questions about her daughter's cell phone and a text message that was sent. Amy is here with more. Good morning, Amy.
That's right, Michael. Good morning. The 17-year-old's phone was reportedly used since her disappearance to send a text message. But right now, who was actually using that phone remains a mystery.
This morning, new images of the mother of two missing Idaho siblings with her new husband in Hawaii. The couple, Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, seen going to church Sunday, refusing to answer questions about the children who haven't been seen since September. These exclusive wedding photos, taken a month after her children were last seen, were obtained by ABC News. They show the happy-looking couple in early November in Hawaii, Chad playing the ukulele while Lori dances on the beach. The wedding happening 4 months after Vallow's former husband was shot and killed by her brother, and just weeks after Daybell's wife died. Police are now investigating her death. Meanwhile, the mystery surrounding the disappearance of 17-year-old Tylee Ryan and her 7-year-old brother JJ deepens. A friend of Tylee's tells ABC News she texted the teen's phone in October, a month after she vanished, and received this message back. "Hi, miss you guys too, love ya." It's been nearly 2 weeks since Lori Vallow missed a court-ordered deadline to physically produce her children.
Can you tell me where your kids are?
East Idaho News, capturing the moment police tracked Vallow and her new husband down in Hawaii in January to serve that court order.
Where are your kids? No comment. No comment? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say?
Daybell has written religious books and given speeches about what he describes as 2 near-death experiences. I recently sat down with JJ's grandparents, who say Vallow has changed over the past year.
I can't say exactly when Chad came into the picture because I really don't know. I knew Lowe was reading books.
Books about the end of the world?
Yeah,
about
doomsday stuff. But I mean, I knew she was in a group.
Now, Chad Vallow married Lori just 3 weeks after the death of his wife, Tammy, and authorities are still waiting for results of her autopsy. Her body was exhumed on December 11th, and according to a leading pathologist, if there was foul play involved in Tammy's death, the autopsy will most likely find it. But JJ's grandparents say every single day they are fighting to find out what happened to those children.
So disturbing.
Every day counts.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Amy. And we're joining us now is Callahan Walsh of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Callahan, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm going to start out by asking, with your experience in missing children's cases, what are authorities doing right now to locate these kids?
Well, this case is very complicated. There's lots to unpack here. There are 3 suspicious deaths surrounding this case, and these children haven't been seen for 5 months. So law enforcement is going to relook at those suspicious deaths and also rely on the public. Anybody that has any information about the whereabouts of these children, I know law enforcement is looking for those keys and looking for those clues.
And Callahan, Mom did not meet the court-ordered deadline to produce these children. So what can authorities do now? What are their next steps?
Well, it's up to the court to draw up charges, to hold Lori in contempt of court. If they do that, that's when law enforcement can really dig in, because just because no one has seen these 2 children in 5 months is not necessarily a crime. However, not producing them at court after that court order is, and if they hold her in contempt, then they can really start to dig in.
Well, have you ever seen any other cases like this where a mother says she gave her kids to someone else and refuses to cooperate with police?